And this is a Friday. We want to get the rate go moving as quick as we can. So welcome everybody to meeting number 5 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. Today we'll be receiving a briefing from representatives of Canada Post Corporation. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to House Order number of November 25th, 2021. Members are attending in person in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. Regarding the speaking list, the committee clerk and I will do our best to maintain a consolidated order of speaking for all members, whether participating virtually or in person. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind all participants at this meeting that screenshots or taking photos of your screen is not permitted. Given the ongoing pandemic situation and in light of the recommendations from public health authorities, as well as the directive of the Board of Internal Economy on October 19, 2021, to remain healthy and safe, the following is recommended for all those attending the meeting in person. Anyone with symptoms should participate by Zoom and not attend the meeting in person. Everyone must maintain 2-meter physical distancing, whether seated or standing. Everyone must wear a non-medical mask when circulating in the room. It is recommended in the strongest possible terms that members wear their masks at all times, including when seated. Non-medical masks, which provide better clarity over cloth masks, are available in the room. Everyone present must maintain proper hand hygiene by using the hand sanitizer at the room entrance. Committee rooms are cleaned before and after each meeting. To maintain this, everyone is encouraged to clean the surfaces such as the desk, chair, and microphone with the provided disinfectant wipes when vacating or taking a seat. As the chair, I'll be enforcing these measures for the duration of the meeting, and I thank members in advance for your cooperation. So just before we start, I would like to just remind members that in the meeting on Tuesday, February 8th, we had to cut that short due to the sound issues which interfered with the interpretation. Regrettably, we were only able to hear from the Procurement Ombudsman and his colleagues for 1 hour. I'm happy to inform members that the Procurement Ombudsman has agreed to appear before the committee on Friday, February 18th, 2022, from 1 until 2 p.m. in order to continue answering members' questions. During the second hour of that meeting of February 18th, the committee will meet in camera to discuss the work plans for the committee's study on the air defence procurement projects and its study on the national shipbuilding strategy. So with that said, I will now invite the representatives of Canada Post Corporation to make their opening statements. Madam Fortin, I believe, if you're good, thank you, and please, you have the floor.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you to the chair and to committee members for inviting us to join you today to talk about service. My name is Manon Fortin. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Canada Post. I'm joined by my colleague, Serge Pitt, Vice President of Business Development, who works closely with many of the companies we work with and support. Together, we hope to answer your questions regarding service from an operational and customer perspective. First, I would like to share some important context that will be helpful for our discussion. À Poste Canada, nous comprenons l'importance.
At Canada Post, we understand the important role we play in the lives of Canadians. We proudly serve all corners of the country, the urban centres, the rural towns, remote communities, and the far north. We are the only delivery organization with a network and a commitment to serve all Canadians. We serve businesses of all sizes, helping to deliver their items or reach new customers. We support small businesses, knowing they rely on us. When we deliver, we are not just representing Canada Post, we are an extension of their customer experience. We do so with our unrivaled cross-Canada network of plants, depots, post offices, and one of the country's largest fleets. Above all, it's powered by our incredible people. More than 50,000 of them across the country are part of the communities they serve, and they do an incredible job.
Continued to change over the years, and Canada Post has always adapted. By serving all Canadians, working with countless businesses and delivering a significant portion of the country's parcels every single day, Canada Post has a front row seat to the changing customer landscape. In the last 2 years, we've seen a rapid and unprecedented change in the needs of Canadians. Ask yourself, have you or members of your family been doing more online shopping during the pandemic? If the answer is yes, then you are among the vast majority of Canadians. This is not a short-term phenomenon. It is a dramatic and lasting shift in consumer behaviors. The demand for delivery, fueled by parcels and online shopping, has jumped forward by several years. It's not just impacting Canada Post and those in the delivery business. It's forcing small and medium-sized businesses to rapidly adapt their business models. Et la demande est encore plus forte.
And it's not just happening in the big cities. Demand for rural parcel deliveries outpacing demand in urban. In the last 2 years, we've seen rural parcel volumes grow by 48% compared to 13% in urban areas. From the beginning of the pandemic, Canadians have turned to Canada Post to provide an essential service they could trust with their growing need for delivery. We understand the important role we play in connecting all Canadians. While we were doing everything to maintain service and keep our people safe the last 2 years, we were also investing significantly and building for the future. Our goal is to provide a service all Canadians can count on, including businesses.
Pandemic, we know a much bigger role lies ahead, helping the country to build back stronger as it finally puts the pandemic in the rearview mirror. We are therefore moving quickly and investing significantly. We are investing $4 billion over 5 years to build much needed capacity, improve service, modernize our network, and improve our environmental performance. Let me provide a few examples. It starts with building capacity in our network. It wasn't long ago that delivering 1 million parcels in a single day was a major milestone that happened only close to Christmas. It's now a typical day. We've more than doubled 1 million many times. To deliver without delay, we needed to expand our capacity to process and sort throughout our network. That's what we're doing. Many of the country's parcels enter our network in the Greater Toronto Area, home to our largest parcel processing plant, Gateway in Mississauga. We are therefore building our first new plant in years to augment capacity in the Toronto area, to ease the load on Gateway and improve service across the country. Construction is well underway, with plans to open early next year. This new plant will sort more than 1 million packages a day at full capacity. That is 50% more than what we have today in Toronto. Covering an area roughly equal to 6 football fields, it will also be a net zero carbon building. The new plant is part of our overall plan to boost capacity and improve service across our national network. Notre établissement Léon Blanchette de Montréal est aussi
Montreal is also another key national hub for parcels, and we expect continued growth at our Léon Blanchette plant. A new packet sorter and other upgrades to double capacity and improve tracking for customers went live late last year. Across the country, we've invested in a Moncton plant to make it an Atlantic parcel hub. We've also invested in a new package sorter in Kitchener to respond to the rapidly growing population in southwestern Ontario. And we've also expanded delivery facilities in Calgary and built a new one in Regina near the airport. We are also investing in a rural delivery network where growth has outpaced our facilities. For example, we invested close to $1 million to double the post office size in Saint-Laurent to reduce congestion in that facility and neighboring facilities in Sainte-Sophie and Sainte-Anne-des-Plaines. We've also kicked off new projects at facilities in different regions across Canada to expand capacity and improve service to Canadians. I hope to be able to share more details about our comprehensive plan to serve the changing needs of Canadians when we get to your questions. For now, let me reassure you that we are very aware of our responsibility. We are taking the necessary measures to respond to the increasing needs throughout the country. But we know that our service needs are even more.
Vast country every day to serve every Canadian, treating every delivery and every customer with care and respect. We understand the responsibility that comes with that, and our plans reflect our commitment. We're enhancing our retail post office services and offering new services. We're piloting a new community hub model in 2 rural communities to offer a wide range of services that are important to the people who live there. We plan to learn from these hubs to further improve our post office network. We've implemented a strategy to improve mail service to underserved Indigenous, Northern, and rural communities. We are working closely with several communities to improve service, and we'll continue this work, understanding our vital role in connecting these communities with the country. We're helping small business to navigate the changing demands of their customers by sharing best practices, customer insights, and discount programs. But above all, we're providing a service they can count on and the capacity to ensure they don't get squeezed out by large retailers. Nous travaillons fort pour assurer.
We are working hard to keep our people safe and improve relations with our bargaining agents. Our safety record continues to improve. We also reached new agreements with all our bargaining agents before they expired, giving our employees and customers much-needed certainty. From the beginning of the pandemic, we are doing what we can to fight the pandemic. We followed the guidance of the Public Health Agency of Canada and worked closely with our union colleagues to keep our people safe. More than ever before, we've made the environment a priority while showing leadership on key social issues. To conclude, there is only one organization built to serve all 16.5 million addresses across the vast country and connect Canadians like no one.
Roughly 473,000 kilometers a day it takes to reach every rural address. It's Canada Post. C'est Post Canada. And we are proud to serve all Canadians and respond to their changing needs. We take our responsibility to this country very seriously. We are not sitting still. We are moving forward with a plan to build capacity, improve service, and support small businesses. At the same time, we're investing in our incredible people and to protect the environment of this country we so proudly serve. Merci, thank you. We look forward to your discussion.
Merci beaucoup, mademoiselle. So we will now go to our first round of questions. It's 6 minutes per question, and the first will be from Mr. Paul Hoos. Mr. Paul Hoos, you have the floor.
Yes. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Fortin, Mr. Pitre. Ms. Fortin, first of all, your testimony. In your testimony, we have some good indicators of the efforts you want to make, but we have the same problem, and we are here because we are wondering about the losses that are being recorded by Canada Post quarter after quarter, and this is the third in 2021, since 2021. I would like to come back to the mandate letter. In that letter, Canada Post is being asked to provide reasonable quality services at reasonable prices. My question is simple. Is it possible now to provide a reasonable price while providing quality service to Canadians, considering the results we've been seeing quarter after quarter? Thank you for your question. And my answer is yes. It's yes. But it would take some elements that are in place. The needs of Canadians and Canadian businesses have changed during the pandemic. We know that we are the only delivery company that can reach the 16.5 million addresses. We also know that we are an essential partner for small and medium-sized enterprises, and we know that we are the preferred company for delivery for Canadians. Now, during the pandemic, Canadians increased their e-commerce by 48%, and on average, they do about 27 orders online, 65% more than in 2019. And as I said in my presentation, this has created exponential growth in the rural areas, 48%, and 13% in the urban area. Well, thank you for what you said, but we know that with e-commerce, the part that goes to letters and packages, I think that is what is profitable. It's when we talk about conventional mail, like letters, that we have operational deficits. Am I correct? We have two businesses that are separate. And it's true that last year, if we look at the results for the third quarter, there was a loss of about 264 million. But when we look at the revenue portion for the same period, we moved ahead by about 500 million compared to the previous year. So this had what had an impact on our profitability rate was the cost that went beyond the growth, that exceeded the growth in revenue. So we want to focus on improving our services to make sure that we are more profitable and that we are able to carry out our mandate. So we want to focus on investments to be able to provide the best possible service to all Canadians. I'm sorry I have to interrupt you. I'm trying to move fast. Talking about increase in delivery of packages in rural area, that can be explained by the fact that there's no competition in the rural areas. It's Canada Post, the only company that does that. Montreal, Quebec, in Toronto, in the urban areas, there's more competition. So now, when it comes to online orders, for example, in Quebec, usually it's private companies that deliver packages. Why is Canada Post not the number one service? Is it because their service is so slow compared to the other private businesses? Well, we have a great share of the market in the urban and rural areas. We delivered more than 300,000 packages last year. We enjoy a great share of the market as well. And the advantage we had, and something we are very proud of, is that we have an unrivaled network. When those packages come to our network and when we deliver, because we are in all communities. But with the increase in package delivery, if we need to continue being competitive and if we need to continue offering quality service, we need investments, and we need to invest everywhere on the network, not only in the major urban areas, but also in the small communities throughout Canada. Last question, Ms. Fortin. We saw a survey that was ordered by the government to cut services, and maybe we'll be cutting services to only 3 days per week. Very quickly, the survey is not from us. We are not the ones who did that survey. We are focusing on the long-term mandate to offer the best possible service to all Canadians and to all Canadian businesses. So we try to meet the needs of Canadians, which have changed. And as I said, we try to focus on investments to meet the capacity needs of people and improve our services in our communities. Thank you.
Now go to Mr. Baines for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our guests, our witnesses that are here today. I'm coming to you from British Columbia, on the West Coast, in Richmond, and there's been a significant investment there by YVR, large, I think it's a sorting and trucking station there. And there's also another in the neighborhood that I live in, quite just moments away from me here at my house. The Canadian Tire has a Canada Post counter inside there. And my question to you is more around, what are some investments that are being made to support innovation and grow? And is this a model that's being used across Canada, having Canada Post counters and branches inside other retail outlets or big box stores? If you can just tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, so we have a network of 6,000 post offices, and some of them are provided through host businesses, as you've just described, and some of them are provided through corporate locations, mostly in rural Canada. We do have several locations in urban Canada, but mostly outside urban Canada as our corporate offices. And our objective is to provide the best service possible to all Canadians and small and medium-sized businesses. And so that model of having a wide network where customers and businesses can access our services is absolutely a part of our operational network.
Right, and it's an ongoing effort. Will it grow? And if you can tell me some feedback, do you have feedback from customers? Is that something that's a profitable side of Canadian Tire, or sorry, Canada Post? And then, what kind of feedback are you getting in order to continue to grow that model?
So I don't have the specifics on the financials or the strategy behind that model, but I could certainly follow up with the committee on that. I would say, though, that we, as part of wanting to provide service to all Canadians, certainly our post office network is a key element. It's an access point that other delivery companies don't have, that we have. We're proud of it. And it is a very important piece of our network.
Okay, I'm just going to switch up a little bit here. I want to maybe talk about efficiencies as well. That was sort of along the lines of how you can appeal to customers more. And I know I had the opportunity to see a little presentation some time ago, and I understand I guess it's 3 out of every 5 parcels is a Canada Post parcel that's being delivered. Are there efficiencies, around in sort of increasing that even, and what's the competitiveness with others that are in the market, and how can you moving forward continue to remain relevant?
So maybe I'll go back a little bit to what I said previously, but really, as Canadian needs are changing, the best way for us to stay relevant and to continue to be financially self-sustainable is to keep step with those needs. And as I said, we're the only delivery company that goes to those 16 million addresses and to all those businesses and those farms across the country. We are the preferred delivery company of most Canadians, and we are investing right now. Our focus is to invest heavily to provide, to continue to provide the service all Canadians can count on. And I'll just give you a few examples of how we are doing that. In Montreal, we invested $85 million to add a third sorter in that facility in order to be able to process that additional volume and to give them the capacity to improve service and processing there. In Moncton, we expanded the plant and put in a sorter there as well to better serve all of Atlantic region. In Kitchener, we just recently installed a sorter, again, to improve service in Southwest Ontario. We are building a second plant in Toronto to provide 1 million pieces of capacity per day. Again, I'll remind everybody that it will be a net zero building, which is a true expression of our environmental ambition. And it doesn't stop in urban Canada. It goes all the way through the network. We have $336 million set aside for outside of urban Canada for places like North Battleford, Val d'Or, Charlottetown, Kamloops, Prince George, Vegreville, Alberta, Torbay, Newfoundland, Niguac, New Brunswick, White City, Saskatchewan, from the small community and the delivery needs to the biggest community.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. Sorry, unfortunately, we've come to the 6 minutes. We'll go now to Ms. Vignola for 6 minutes.
Bonjour, Madame Fortin. Merci.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I have a number of questions. I'll go fast. From the report the committee presented in 2016, there are problems for seniors and for handicapped persons who want to access Canada Post Office. Recently, you published an ad announcing measures for disabled persons and seniors. That being said, it's all fine and good. The dates are far away. I think it's 2030 from memory. I don't have the exact dates, but it's far off, particularly since the accessibility law has been adopted in Quebec many years ago. My colleague from Rimouski has been fighting for 18 months now for the Cabano Canada Post Office be accessible to seniors. For 18 months, he's been told that they can't find an electrician to make it possible for the door to open to facilitate life for seniors and disabled people. 18 months just to find a button for them. But the ad keeps announcing that Canada Post wants to do this to enable people access their offices. What is being done exactly? First of all, it's unfortunate to hear. I'm sorry to hear what's happening in Cabano, but I can tell you that we are now working on the needs of our network. We want to improve and invest, not only looking at the capacity, but as you said, to deal with the deficits, rather to deal with people with disabilities and improve accessibility. We do have an accessibility strategy, and there are investments set aside for that to eliminate the barriers that you've described, like the one in Cabano. And every time we renovate, or every time we build or set up a new depot or office, we make sure that the new standards are applied. In the case of Cabano, I will ask my team to follow up with you. It's unacceptable what is happening. Thank you. How do you assess the old buildings to make sure that they're accessible as well? Yes, we have a team which every year carries out an assessment, not only of the building, looking at accessibility, but also looks at everything that has to do with the mechanics, the structure, and that is provided. Every year we receive the list of problems, and we have $47 million set aside every year to correct any deficiencies that are identified, including those that have to do with accessibility. I'm very sorry to hear what's happening in Cabano, but we will follow up with you, so you can count on me for that. Thank you. In the report, according to the report that the committee published in 2016, MPs talked about to actively involve municipalities in decisions that have to deal with the management of the territory, and to come up with a universal fair scale that takes into account the size of the packages. with yes or no, can you tell us whether you are now involving municipalities in decision-making, not only consultations, but involvement when it comes to decision-making, decisions that have to do with the territory? I will start with the general answer. Whether it has to do with setting up community boxes, problems that have to do with services in the community, problems that have to do with access to the buildings, new services, new requests. Yes, we do consult our communities. And increasingly, take the example of Member 2 and High Prairies. These are very specific examples where we set up a community center that dealt with community issues, consulting people from the community. Looking at the prices, conversely, I have a specific question about the prices.
La grille tarifaire n'est toujours pas universelle.
From what I can see, the scale is still not fair, and there's a surcharge for fuel to send packages to some regions. So why charge me an extra amount for fuel? And the person told me it was for package delivery. Seriously? But that's the duty of Canada Post to deliver packages. So I imagine that when it's being done locally in the same village, I imagine that your employees don't use a horse or something else to deliver packages. They always use a car and fuel. So don't you think that charging extra for fuel is unfair when it comes to remote areas?
Question à M. Pitt pour y répondre. Serge?
Merci beaucoup, Manon.
Thank-
Merci pour l'opportunité. De ce côté-là, quand vous
Thank you for the opportunity. When you talk about the surcharge, it's not something that is specific to a region. When it comes to transport, considering that the price of fuel can vary every month, there are indicators that are provided to harmonize the variations in fuel prices for delivery. So that's something everybody uses on the market because those costs are significant when it comes to delivering packages throughout the country. But as I said, it's something that's being done throughout the industry, not just in Canada Post, to manage this variability in prices.
That it is appreciated. And Ms. Vignola, I let you get a little bit extra there, so you snuck one by me on this one. But so we'll go now to Mr. Johns, and I'm going to be more ruthless with you, Mr. Johns. 6 minutes.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Hey, I can't thank you enough, Madam Fortin and Mr. Peltier, for being here to testify today. Just a few days ago, we learned that the PCO had done internal polling that was extremely concerning to postal workers, to Canadians that rely on mail delivery, and of course to the NDP. And some of the questions related to ending home delivery, replacing workers with machines, closing rural post offices, these are deeply concerning. So it's my understanding that neither Canada Post nor the postal workers unions were involved in this polling. I guess my question is, I'm wondering what your reaction is when you see the current government asking questions like these and how it could impact your operations.
So you're quite correct. We did not participate in the polling, and we were not aware of the polling. And we continue to be focused on our long-standing mandate of providing high quality service to all Canadians while remaining financially self-sustainable. And we're responding to the changing needs of Canadians for that very reason. This is why we're investing heavily in our network, across the network, from the smallest office to the largest one in Toronto, to enable us to adapt to those needs and to have the capacity to deliver the best service possible.
I totally appreciate that. Can you agree or that the survey questions were incorrect?
Look, I'm the operator in the room.
Yeah.
My job and my focus is on day-to-day
Okay.
operations and
So how
providing
about
the
this?
best service possible.
How about this? They were misleading. They told Canadians that it was going to cost taxpayers money. And so that's not true. Canada Post is standalone. Can you confirm that?
Canada Post is standalone.
It's a standalone corporation. It's not relying on revenue from the federal coffers.
We are required to be financially self-sustainable, yes.
Right. So can you provide an update to committee members about initiatives or studies that Canada Post is currently, undertaken related to the automation of Canada Post services, either in postal facilities or in client-facing roles?
I am not aware. As I've said, I'm responsible for operations, and so the day-to-day delivery of service. What I can tell you is that we have significant investment plans, which include building new buildings, expanding existing buildings, putting automation to give us the capacity to sort and deliver the additional parcel volumes that are coming through our entire network. That is what we have plans for.
Amazon's a big competitor for you. Can you talk about how unfair it is that they don't pay taxes, in Canada like other corporations?
As I've said, I'm the operator in the room. So if you have questions on service and on operations and safety.
Let's talk about that. So safety is a really important one, and you touched on that earlier. And with federal accessibility legislation now in place and employment for persons with disabilities identified as the key priority, recognizing kind of the explicit interface between disability, poverty, employment. What are Canada Post's key strategies in accommodating employees who acquire a mental or physical health impairment and are unable to carry on with their current duties, or people that are suffering from long COVID symptoms and are unable to carry out their duties? Because I'm sure that many people have been impacted from COVID, as well as mental health injuries.
So we are committed at Canada Post playing a leading role on key issues facing the country and being a positive force for change. We want to do better on those things. And part of that is our social mandate. We are investing $5 million to advance equity, diversity, and inclusion. We have a 40-step action plan.
I appreciate that. I'm really worried about workers that have been injured in the workplace and ensuring that we're accommodating those workers, especially given COVID and the spike in injuries, workplace injuries. Madam Fortin, can you provide this committee with an update on the community hub pilot projects that are taking place in Member 2 and High Prairie? Specifically, I'd like to hear what feedback you've received from the community and if these hub projects are working well, and if Canada Post has identified any other communities this program could be expanded into, and what criteria Canada Post would be looking for to expand the project beyond these two communities.
So we have 2 community hubs, one in High Prairie, Alberta, that started up in November, and another that is being developed right now in Member 2, Nova Scotia. We are planning, and it will start sometime this year, we are planning 2 additional hubs, locations to be determined. We have yet to determine those locations. These are new models that we are piloting to improve community access in rural Canada and to help local small and medium businesses connect with their customers. They're not cookie cutter. So you talk about criteria, but really they're not cookie cutter because we are taking extra care to consult with the community to ask them what their needs are. And so we also work with the unions in the program to determine how we can best serve local customers. So examples of services that have been brought forward and that will be implemented is the My Money loans, which, as you may know, is a new financial service we're testing. ATMs, 24-hour parcel pickup or drop off, small, medium business services, meeting space that businesses in the community can rent and use.
Thank you, Ms. Fortin. If you have more that you feel you can add to that, answer, if you would submit that to the clerk in writing, would be appreciated.
Thank you.
We'll now go to the second round, and we'll go to Mr. McCauley for 5 minutes, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Witnesses, thanks for joining us. Before I start, I just want to give a shout out to one of your Alberta managers, Donald Cooper. He's phenomenal. He's helped our constituents greatly. So thanks very much to him. I want to get into some of the finances. How much did Canada Post lose last year?
So in our last, by the way, thank you for the shout out to Donald Cooper. Very good employee. So our results, our published results, will say that as of the third quarter, we had a loss of $492 million.
Right. And what's the projection for the rest of the year?
Oh, I don't have those specifics with me.
Probably similar, so maybe 650, 700 mil loss. And it was what last year was 700 and like $750 million. I'm wondering if you read, I was part of the original Canada Post study traveling 6 years ago. Ernst & Young, of course, forecasted that Canada Post would not be losing that level of money to 2026. You've achieved the goal early. I guess not, congratulations. But I want to get into the Canada Post Act. It's 52B states you've got to be sustainable. This does not look like it's financially sustainable, and it also contradicts the 2018 mandate to ensure quality service at a reasonable price. Now, it's not necessarily compatible with economic sustainability so that taxpayers are not left on the hook for these massive losses. Do you see clawing out of these massive losses, which are going to be $1.5 billion in 2 years and getting worse?
Yes, the answer is we do have a path to sustainability. We have a dual mandate, as you know, to serve every Canadian address while maintaining financial self-sustainability. And 2 years of pandemic and the changing needs of Canadians.
But if I can interrupt here, though, the task force and Ernst & Young clearly articulated 4 or 5 years ago that we were on the wrong path financially or financial sustainability. Things have gotten worse than they even predicted. So we seem to be going down the wrong path on the corporate act part, saying fiscal sustainability. Like, how are we going to get to fiscal sustainability when we're hemorrhaging $750 million a year? And I don't put that necessarily on you, as opposed to direction from the current government, but this is taxpayers who are going to be on the hook for this eventually.
So we think that investing heavily in our service and our capacity, and by putting Canadians first, and by responding to the changing needs of Canadians, is helping us move forward to be financially sustainable. And that is why we are investing to provide that service to all Canadians with the $4 billion over the next few years, which will increase our capacity by 50% nationally.
For the low profit parcel delivery, though, that's what we're increasing?
The capacity that we are increasing is definitely to increase our parcel capacity, yes.
Right. And how much do we make per dollar on that compared to the declining delivery mail? It's like pennies on the dollar versus what, 68, 67 cents per dollar profit for direct mail or addressed mail?
Yeah, I don't have the specifics of that. We could certainly forward them to the committee.
Yeah.
What I
understand the tough situation you're in, but you know, profits are going the wrong way, and we're investing massively into the low profit area of Canada Post. I don't see how that's going to dig us out of a $750 million deficit, again, that taxpayers are going to be on the hook for. And I'm greatly concerned about taxpayers having to foot this for perhaps a political direction on improved service as opposed to obeying the Canada Post Act, which states fiscal sustainability.
Yes, like I said, our path to financial self-sustainability, we believe, comes from by putting Canadians first and responding to the needs that have evolved through this pandemic. And our investments will enable us to address those needs in the next few years.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Mr. Johari for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Fortier. We appreciate your testimony. Among many priorities that you highlighted, expansion of capacity and supporting for small business is the one that stood out for me. Specifically, you talked about $4 billion over 4 years, focus on initiative to expand capacity and with a focus on improving operation. A couple of questions. My understanding is we are expanding capacity in Ontario East. One of the 3 construction phases is completed. Can you give us a quick update on that, and also help me understand when you talk about improving operation, aside from a processing time, how that improvement helps in improved service level, whether it's the cost or whether it's the operational cost or whether it's the service delivery. And if you leave some time for me to come and ask a question about support for small businesses, I really appreciate it. Why don't we start with the first question? Thank you.
Okay. So I believe the first question was around the Ontario East plant, so our second facility in Toronto. So Toronto is our second, is our biggest induction point for parcels in Canada. It is where most parcels start and go to wherever their destination is. And with the online shopping increasing so much during the pandemic, in order to improve our service and to be capable of that service in Toronto, we have made the decision to invest in a second facility. And that facility is a $470 million investment in Scarborough, 1 million packages a day that we will be able to process there. That's 50% more than the current capacity. And it will have state-of-the-art automation equipment, which facilitates and accelerates the processing of those items in facilities and helps them get them to destination.
And this is the area that I wanted to focus on. So I understand capacity building. I understand our processing capability goes up, and I understand we can process a larger volume. But at the end of the day, it is helping us to be able to improve our service delivery from what point to what point. For example, from processing to get it to the end customer previously would have taken 1.5 days. Now it's going to take, I don't know, X days. Can you expand on that one quickly?
Sure. So there's 2 elements to that answer. The first answer is if you don't have the capacity to process all of the volumes that you get, which was a bit what happened at the beginning of the pandemic when we had that parcel surge, you end up not being able to move the product quick enough. So there's service impacts all along the way. So we don't want to repeat that experience. The equipment that we provide in those facilities provide us a much deeper sort to our network has changed. The network has evolved. Where people live has evolved. If you think of Ontario and what's happened to some of those communities north of Toronto and how the volumes, the communities have changed there, well, the parcel volumes there have changed as well. So the automation provides deeper sort to avoid handoffs and, multiple handoffs between each of our operations.
Improving the service delivery by how much? 10%, 20%, 5%?
We've yet to land on the service improvement, but we think it will be significant.
Okay, thank you. You touched on support for small businesses, especially during these times when we are doing a lot of customer to customer, online business to customer online transactions. How's that impacted? How are you helping the small businesses?
Perhaps I'll have my colleagues, Mr. Pitt, answer that question. Serge?
Yes, thank you, Manon. Thank you for the question. Basically, for small businesses, first, the one thing I'd just like to mention is all the investment that we're making in a network will benefit all markets. So basically, you're a small customer or a major account, you go through the same process and the same efficiencies when we invest in a network. Specifically for small businesses, we've been investing a lot in helping them grow their business. So basically, we had a lot of webinar with them on how to manage e-commerce, how to build your site, how to manage your packaging, how to reduce your costs. Again, most of these small businesses don't have the expertise or the resources to do that. Canada Post is there for them. And we had last year, helping them being able to ship because most of them were not open to be able to serve customers directly. So online we help them, but also because we also the marketing, mail marketing, we help them reach out to potential customers. And this is what we do at Canada Post. Even in the last 3 years, and hopefully some of you did receive one at home, we introduced what we call a holiday catalog. Around the holiday seasons, where there was a mix of major account, small customer, very small customers able to advertise across the country. We mail over 800,000.
Thank you. I apologize for interrupting. We'll now go to Ms. Vignola for 2.5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Over the past months, towns and villages have asked Canada Post to maintain the quality of service, and many supported innovative measures. For example, setting up a vigilance service with seniors and the community hubs you talked about already, electrification of vehicles. I have 3 questions for you. Do you intend to set up pilot projects concerning the vigilance services for seniors? You introduced 2 pilot services, community hubs. What are the results? Will other similar pilot projects be set up, and where? In June 2020, a call for tenders was issued for a pilot project for electric cars. But the date keeps being postponed. Now it's gone up to 31st of December 2022. Why was that date postponed? Could you guarantee that that date will not once again be changed? Thank you. Thank you, and many questions. I'll start with the community hubs. We do not yet have any results to share because the first was in Alberta in November, the one in Member 2 in Nova Scotia will be opening soon in 2022. And that one has electric stations because we're talking about electric cars. Now, talking about electric cars, as I said a while ago, we want to play a significant role when it comes to things that are important to Canadians, and the environment is one of them. And we want to do a lot better on the environment. We've come up with an action plan, an environmental action plan. We ended in 2021 with our unions, and this will give us gas reduction targets. I'm sorry, let's concentrate on the call for tenders. Why is that date being changed? Can you guarantee that by the 31st of December, there will be no other postponements?
Talking seconds, please. Thank you.
Oh my. L'appel d'offres que vous...
The call for tenders you're talking about, I don't have any specific information, but the good news we have is that we'll be receiving our first electricity cars this year, one in Montreal and the other in Vancouver.
Mr. Johns for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The PCO poll that we're deeply concerned about, it reinforced something that we do already know, though. Rural post offices need to remain open. And for many rural residents, the post office is where you conduct business. I know from my own experience living in Tofino, BC, it's the anchor for local commerce. And I ran the Chamber of Commerce there. It's the heart of local rural communities. And we need, and we believe that rural post offices can play a much bigger role in communities, which is why we want to expand services, including postal banking. The big banks are abandoning rural communities right now, leaving many without access to banking services, despite record profits. So by offering banking services through its network of over 6,000 postal outlets, many in rural areas, Canada Post could overnight become the most accessible bank in the country. I guess I'd like to ask you about market testing that Canada Post has undertaken related to postal banking. Rural, northern, and small communities are in serious need of banking services, as I've outlined. And many of those banks are closing right now. My colleagues in the NDP have raised this many times. So can you provide the committee with an update as to how many market test sites are currently operating? How is Canada Post informing its clients of banking services that are being implemented? And how are you measuring the success of the market testing, and are plans in place for a national rollout, finally, of banking services at Canada Post locations?
Okay, multi questions. So
And,
first
and
of all,
1 minute.
Oh gosh, okay. I'm going to try and be very focused then. So the community hubs to us are an expression of our commitment to expanding services in communities. And as I've said, we've got one done, one close to being done, two in the plans, locations to be determined. In terms of financial services, we've expanded our financial services with the new personal loan product called My Money Loan. It's a strategic partnership with TD. In early stages, customer response is positive, and TD response is positive. We're quite happy with the test, and we are going to be enhancing our financial services that we provide, but we do not plan on launching a full postal bank.
Thank you, Ms. Fortin. That was excellent. Well done. You brought it right in on that minute. Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mr. Lobb for 5 minutes.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay? Okay. First question is on volume. And in 2019, in your financial statement, you delivered 7.8 billion packages. And I'm just wondering what kind of uptime your facilities have consolidated. What was the uptime for your facilities?
Can you define uptime?
Well, I used to work in manufacturing, and it was pretty simple. It was the amount of time the plant was open that it actually spent running.
Okay. I was thinking, is it maintenance of the equipment or is it the plant? So I would say, particularly at the beginning of the pandemic.
Well, I'm talking about 2019.
2019. So 2019 in normal operations, we would typically be operating 24/7, with the exception, there's one shift that we typically don't operate, which is Saturday to Sunday night shift, to give our people a break.
Now, in 2006, you delivered 11.6 billion packages. So almost 4 billion less in 2019 than in 2006, according to your financial statements or financial reports. So I'm just curious, like, if we're running 24/7 in 2019, where's the shift there? Like, where in the sorting and processing and everything else, is there slack in the system, or how is it that we are processing less packages, but yet we're still going full speed?
Oh, we're processing many more packages than we did in 2019. As I said, the growth for rural destined packages has been 48%, and in urban Canada, it's been 13%. And so there has been a net increase in package volumes, a significant net increase in package volumes. And what we are investing in is for the future, as we know that e-commerce will grow and the demand will grow, and we need to be able to continue to provide excellent service to Canadians. So over 2019, volumes are growing. Last year, we delivered 323 million packages.
Right. Okay. But still, total consolidated, it's less than what you're delivering in 2006 with everything. But fair enough. I get your point. There's a different product mix.
Yes.
Do you want to comment at all on the pension? Is the pension fully funded, or is there a liability with the pension?
I don't have the specifics on that, but I would be happy to provide them to the committee if you desire.
Okay. The other thing is, in your financial statements, Equity of Canada. So that's the government of Canada when they contribute money. I make that assumption. In the last couple of years, the Equity of Canada, has that gone into operations or has that gone into capital projects?
We have, so I'm not a financial expert,
Okay.
but what I can say, let me tell you that we've invested heavily into our operations in order to modernize it, to improve capacity, to address some of the challenges that some of the members have expressed in our network.
Okay. So the last question, because I'm probably running out of time here, it's in regards to margins. I mean, the operating margins are pretty small. They're pretty small, and compared to FedEx, maybe not a fair comparison, but they're, quite a bit substantially lower than FedEx's. Is there an area, like we did talk about some of the areas of growth? What's the margins that are growing? Like you mentioned, parcel delivery. What's the operating margins on parcel delivery?
I think I might turn that over to my colleague, Mr. Pitt.
Thank you. Again, where you're talking about margin and where we can grow the business, basically what we're trying to do with Manon, she was saying, with the investment, is being able to be more efficient, reduce our costs, and provide a better service to Canadian.
Right.
And there, we will be more competitive and acquire that volume in the marketplace.
Okay. So you're going to make an investment. I understand that. You're going to improve efficiencies. Do you have a projection on where your operating margins might lie after you've done that investment?
Well, once
3%, 2%, 5%, 0%?
I don't have that number in front of me now, but we could report to the committee.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, and I'm not trying to be difficult here, is I think it's important for the committee. Just one last point, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you very much, and I thank the witnesses for any, and if you would submit the written answers to those questions that you were provided to the clerk, that would be greatly appreciated. We will disseminate that to the membership. Thank you. We'll now go to Mr. Kuzmierczuk for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in Canada, we obviously have a very diverse community here, and we have many relations and networks abroad, and I know that Canada Post provides remittance services to Canadians, and I'm sure also to many of the temporary foreign workers that come here as well too. We have about 10,000 temporary foreign workers that come to our region every single year. I just wanted to ask, who is using the remittance services provided by Canada Post, and maybe what advantages does Canada Post have over just regular banks that are out there providing those types of services?
I'm going to assume that you're talking about the MoneyGrams type remittance services.
Yes.
And yes, and the advantage that we have definitely is the size of our network and how far-reaching we are and how accessible we are to those who would want to use the services. And I would also say that our brand, we are one of the most trusted brands in Canada. And so a service like MoneyGram would find that appealing and would find comfort in entrusting their business to what is a trusted brand.
And I know that in this business, obviously innovation, always going where the puck is going, following customer demands is so critical. And we know that obviously deliveries of parcels have gone up exponentially. People living in multi-residential dwelling units, condos, for example, sometimes you see boxes and boxes stacked in the lobby. And I know Canada Post has introduced or is looking at potentially introducing automated parcel locker pilots across the country. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and how they work and how they might improve efficiency?
We are constantly looking at ways to innovate and to improve service to all Canadians, whether they're in urban, rural, or northern communities. And we have tested automated lockers, and the test has completed. We also have tested and are implementing actual non-automated parcel lockers, but that work quite well. In many condominium buildings, apartment buildings, in our big cities and in our smaller cities, wherever we can, because of the parcel growth and because of what you described as there's boxes in the lobby, that's not necessarily the high level of service that we want to provide. We've installed thousands of parcel lockers across the country to deal with that. And we are also are looking at where else we can install parcel lockers so that Canadians can have their parcels the closest possible to where they live or work, if they go back to work.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you. And obviously just going back to the theme of innovation and just making sure that you're providing, again, different services and a wide array of services. Have a question about the use of drones in delivery service as well too. And so according to Canada Post's 2020 annual report, drone delivery, there's plans that are plans right now that are looked at to test drones and robotics and using drones to deliver mail and parcels and whatnot. What are the advantages and disadvantages that you see of drone delivery?
So, as I said, we're always looking for ways to innovate and to try and improve our service. And in remote communities or difficult to access communities because of weather, because of whatever reason, we have worked with various companies to see could drone be a solution. And we tested drones in BC with one of the pharma. And we learned a lot from that test on how drones function, what infrastructure you need, the people that you need, the expertise you need. And we will continue to look for opportunities on drones to see what application they might have within our delivery network.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And using a Chair's discretion, maybe you can try those drones in southeast Saskatchewan and see how they work there as well. Appreciate that. We now go into our third round, and Mr. Paul Hoos, you have 5 minutes.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question that's not easy to hear, but I work here in the community, in the committees to ask specific questions as much as possible. I would like to know what you have to say about the famous poll that was requested by the government. The government had requested a poll on Canada Post services. Is it because the government had lost confidence in your organization? Is that why that poll was requested? As I said, we did not participate in that poll. I learned about it. We are focusing on our main mandate, particularly at a time when we are working during the worst wave of the pandemic. We are focusing on our mandate to serve Canadians. Well, I understand. Why do you think the government did that? that the government decided to carry out a survey, ask Canadians questions about what they think about your service and what can be done. How can you explain that? Unfortunately, I can't speak for the federal government. I can only speak for our company and for myself. As I said, I'm in charge of operations on a daily basis, and that's the work I do. I have another question. I hope you have an answer. During the last elections, a lot of money was some money was sent for Canadians to vote, and some arrived late. At the level of, is it possible to have a quicker service because we are talking about the general election? What happened to cause those delays in what was sent to Canadians to help with the vote? There was a huge order, and there was a lot of work that we had to do for the 44th federal elections. We worked closely with Elections Canada to support the effort, and we adopted the same approach that we use during all elections in Canada. We made sure that every day all the material was delivered. Controls were in place to assess the situation regularly every day. And we were communicating directly with Elections Canada as well. So I can't speak for Elections Canada, but I can assure you that it's a project that is close to our heart and that we follow up closely. But are you confirming that when it comes to operations, the vote ballots were not, you are making sure that ballots are delivered quickly? Can you explain why a lot of them were not delivered on time? In 2021, there was a violation of data. Many clients were affected. Some included the names and addresses of clients. I understand that it was tied to a supplier. But for 3 years, you didn't know about it. Why? We take things like this very seriously. When there's any information that is released, when it happens, when there's a leak, we have a process in place to inform the departments responsible. And we do have measures in place, increasingly we do, to protect our systems. And these are reviewed regularly. We work with experts regularly as well. Last question. We've talked a lot about investments by Canada Post, but you never talked about your plan to get back to a budget balance, and particularly profitability in your case. We never talk about that. Are you going to stay in that negative spiral for a long time? As I said before, we have a mandate, serve Canadians with the best possible service and be financially responsible. We have an opportunity before us. The needs of Canadians have changed, and they have created opportunities when it comes to e-commerce. So we are investing a lot to be able to meet that demand. And we believe that if that demand is a priority, that will help us balance our budget. Thank you very much, Ms. Fortin and Mr. Paul Hughes.
Listen for 5 minutes.
Oh, I can't hear.
And you're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I had taken it off. I didn't press hard enough. I assume you can hear me now.
No worries. I'll start the clock now.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll begin. I'm really interested to hear from you on sort of beginning in those early days of COVID, where you clearly had to switch in very short order in an organization that's massive, that's not able to easily in most aspects, transition to virtual work. So I'd really like to hear about that. And then how, as the online shopping reality, this new reality of how we engage in our lives, how that that really became so significant in just how we live and secure what we need on a daily basis, how you were able as an organization to quickly position into that reality and then lead into where we are today, and still with Omicron and still with staff where people are are still ill and just being able to manage staffing levels for a multitude of reasons. So sort of the three aspects of the past 2 years.
Yeah, it has been quite the past 2 years for everyone, has it not? So let me start by saying that throughout the pandemic, we at Canada Post work closely with public health and receive their guidance on what we had to do and how we had to do it in terms of safety. Our priority to this day, because wave 5 is still out there, is to keep our people safe and to keep our the communities we serve safe through our work. And so how we've evolved through that, well, we had to implement a number of safety measures. We work closely with our unions to do that. They include things like provided paid leave for quarantine, for elder care, for child care. We provided enormous amounts of protective equipment for our employees, including a CPC issued mask. We must have revised about 100 procedures for our employees. If you can imagine, as an employee, day by day, processes change. You must turn around and learn those processes, understand them, but it was to keep them safe and to keep our customers safe. We had to put in new cleaning protocols to make sure that we were keeping people safe. We did on-site rapid test clinics, vaccination clinics for employees and for their families. We implemented our mandatory vaccination practice in line with the federal government. But there was an impact on operations for sure. And I would say through the first 3 waves of COVID, while the volumes were surging, we were able to maintain service at a fairly high level, actually, and manage, and by putting safety first. We had all kinds of contingencies that we had to implement everywhere across Canada. But the latest wave, Omicron, similar to other companies, has been a bit of a different situation for us. So we've had staffing and coverage has often been a challenge, but more at the local level. So, not widespread, local level. And just to give you an example, in January, our second week of January, we had the highest number of employees off with COVID or on quarantine. We had 3,500 people on quarantine. We had not seen that since the beginning of the pandemic. And so that we worked hard to keep our service going by putting in contingencies. Our employees stepped up, as they always do, accepted additional supplementary hours. Some of them even traveled to other communities to help serve that community. And so through that, we were able, for the most part, to keep the service going. And, at any given time, we have 6,000 post offices and we have 55,000 employees, 400 depots and 22 plants. And about from 20 to 36 post offices at any given time would have been closed because it was a standalone office with a single employee. But we found contingencies for the most part, or we reduced hours. So worked really hard. Our people were very creative. And of course, they're always so caring about the service in their communities, and they will do pretty well anything to help us manage through that. I think the second part of your question was around parcel volume. So as I said, parcel volumes shifted completely to a new level and advanced. Where we thought we would have that parcel volume, let's say in 2026, we actually had them in 2021. So that is why we've accelerated our investment plans so that we can meet that demand and be able to continue to offer terrific service, a good service to all Canadians and businesses.
Thank you very much. And now we'll go to Ms. Vignola for 2.5 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Fortin. There are probably answers to my questions that will have to be given in writing, and I would also like the answers to my previous questions to be given in writing as well. Earlier, you spoke about drones, and that's where I was going. I grew up in what we call a city, but it's actually a village in Fermont on the North Shore. And the North Shore is having a lot of trouble receiving its parcels in some regions. And even in some parts, some people aren't receiving their chemotherapy medication, their epilepsy medication. It's really problematic. Maybe drones might be the solution. Who knows? If the pilot project, the drone pilot project, is considered sustainable, what kind of extension are you thinking of, and how much would that service cost, especially for human resources? Are we going to be losing human resources? Are we going to be losing post office because of that? And I mean, cameras are necessary on drones. Will everything be done in order to protect private data, clients' private information? Those are very good questions. Did you want to continue? Did you have more? No, go ahead. Thank you. As I said earlier, we tested some drones in Salt Springs near Vancouver. And it's exactly what you're describing. It was in order to bring medication. So we did a test with a pharmacy and with a provincial department. It was an exploratory test. We are at the very start of that exploration in order to determine if it's possible, where it would be possible, in what context it would be possible, and with which partners. Our strength is really in our network, transportation, processing, delivery. And drones is really not our expertise, so we'd have to determine what partner we'd want to have in order to succeed. Why not use the expertise? Why not go get that expertise? That's what we did with our partnership in British Columbia. It's exactly what we did. That test is done, and now we're examining the results to see what we could do in the future in regards to drones. And in regards to human resources, I'm not sure what the impact could be. I can tell you that for now, for us, it's more about having an alternative for hard-to-reach areas. Would it be a way to improve service in those communities, first of all? And second of all, drones. Sometimes we see young kids who are playing with their drones, but commercial drones need pilots who are in an office, and they're the ones who are guiding the drones. In regards to resources, with the current technology, thank you.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. I appreciate that. And you got to, on those drones issue, you got to test them in a dirt devil or a plow wind in Saskatchewan before you find out how they're going to work. Anyway, we'll now go to Mr. Johns for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you both for your testimony. And I also do want to give a shout out to Benjamin Berman, who represents Canada Post on Vancouver Island. He's helped us navigate some very difficult and challenging times. Ms. Fortin, I'd like to ask about Canada Post's Indigenous and Northern reconciliation strategy, specifically the commitment to hire and retain Indigenous employees. And so, basically what lessons has Canada Post learned about community engagement and working with elders to make sure that First Nations, Inuit, and Métis are the beneficiaries of investments in their communities? And in terms of numbers of employees, do you have any idea of how Indigenous people have been hired since the strategy was initially introduced?
Okay, that's lots of questions too. So, I mean, I'll go back to the community hubs as an expression of our desire to do better, and not just do better in our own terms, but to do better in terms of what the community needs. So in both of those communities, we've invested a lot of time with them to understand what their needs are and to not have a cookie cutter approach to what the offer will be and how we will offer it, but to have something that's relevant to them and to what they need. So that's the first expression of that. In our Indigenous strategy, I've said before, we want to be a positive force for change. That includes how we will evolve our Indigenous strategy. The first evidence of that is we were the first Crown corporation to adopt a reconciliation strategy in 2020. We have set aside $1 million to improve postal services in Indigenous communities. We are always responding to...
Okay. I'm running out of time.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking for numbers, like, how many employees, have been, do you have any idea? And also you talked about services for Indigenous and rural and remote communities. Postal banking seems ideal. And you talked about the success of it. Why aren't you doing it?
So on the numbers, we do have numbers and ambitions on how we want the representation of Indigenous communities to increase in our workplace. I don't have the specifics with me, but I certainly will make sure that our teams provide you with that information. In terms of procurement, I do have a number. We have changed our procurement practices to ensure that 5% of our purchases come from Indigenous businesses. And we have, it's not related to recruitment, but we're quite proud of it. We have made a commitment to have annually in our stamp program a Truth and Reconciliation stamp.
Thank you very much. And now we'll go to Mr. McCauley for 5 minutes.
Great. Thanks again for all the time you're taking with us. I want to just get back to kind of the difficult spot you're in with the 2018 direction and what the Canada Post Act calls for. Is there a political direction given to you that's keeping Canada Post from transitioning?
My only response to that would be that we have a financial outlook that has our dual mandates included, and that dual mandate is to serve every Canadian address to the best of our ability while being financially self-sustainable.
What are the dual mandates? The Canada Post Act and then a direction from the federal government? Separate mandates from them?
Our dual mandate is to provide a universal service to all Canadians and Canadian businesses.
It's self-sustainability.
That's right.
Right. Is there direction from the federal government that's keeping you from perhaps attaining your second mandate, which is fiscal sustainability? Do you believe?
I'm not aware of any, and I don't have the specifics around that.
Okay. I want to just chat about some of the rural service. Now, we're hearing in Alberta difficulties, and it's whether it's in larger rural towns of 10, 20,000 or, the smaller ones, the difficulty of getting service. There's problems where people have to drive 3 or 4 hours. Can you just give us some feedback on what's causing that? Is it inability or difficulty in hiring staff? Is it problems from COVID, from people calling in sick? Because I know they're not large workforces to begin with at a rural post office. Could you just fill us in about some of these issues? How much is a serious systemic issue and how much is just because of the circumstances happening right now?
So as I've said, last year we went through 3 waves of COVID and managed through our contingencies and of course our employees stepping up every step of the way to maintain service and even to improve service. This latest wave of COVID, as in every company in Canada, in every corner of Canada, has been more challenging.
Is it more Omicron than it is difficulty hiring people in the rural areas?
It's definitely, for us, it's definitely more Omicron.
Is there a sense
right
that
now.
as we're, like in Alberta, the case count's dropping, as we're seeing across the country, thank heaven, is there a sense that we're getting back to regular service? Because again, what we're hearing, again, from the rural areas is, and it's difficult, I understand, but we're hearing very difficult stories from them of long drives to get service, et cetera. Are we going to come out of that, or is this the new reality for the rural areas?
It's not the new reality for rural areas. In fact, we have seen since the peak of the second week of January in terms of the number of cases that we had in our operations where either people had to quarantine or they had to be away from work because they had contracted COVID. We have seen since that worst week gradual reduction of those cases. And so gradually people are returning to work. I would say from what I've seen nationally, there's been about a 30% improvement in
difficulty in hiring postmasters for the rural areas?
Staffing has been and continues to be a challenge, not just in rural, in urban Canada as well. But for the most part, we've been successful. We have a process that we follow, and typically we are successful in staffing our post offices. There have been rare occasions where a postmaster has retired.
These are more COVID. We're short on time. These are more COVID. To summarize, it's more COVID related, the issues we've seen the last couple of years. Great. Can I ask, I want to get back to, I know it's out of your control, the poll that everyone's talking about. Have you been presented with the results of that?
I have not.
No? Have you asked for it?
I have not.
No? Okay. The Canada Post debt, I think you were allowed a debt ceiling of $2.5 billion. What are you at now, and when are you going to hit that debt ceiling?
I don't have the specifics about that, but we will make sure that we provide them to the committee.
Okay. I think I'm out of time. Thanks for your feedback.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. We'll now go to Mr. Housefather for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, et merci, Madame Fortin, d'avoir été parmi nous aujourd'hui.
Thank you, Ms. Fortin, for being among us today.
And I want to thank you and all the Canada Post employees across the country who do such a great job to bring postal services to all Canadians. So I have a couple of questions. Bienvenue. My colleague, Mr. Johns, had asked before about the options of banking at Canada Post, and you briefly brought up the My Money pilot project that's being done. Could you talk to us more about the My Money project and how it would work? How would it compare to loans from banks, for example?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the feedback on our employees. They are very hardworking, the 55,000 of them, and I'm glad that they received some recognition. It's been a tough 2 years out front. So it is a test that we're doing in partnership with a TD. We have it across several sites in Canada. And really the difference, I suppose, I'm not an expert and we could provide you all the details separately. But so we're not a bank. What we are is an access point for customers who visit that post office in the community to see the offer of service and be directed to TD to go and access the service. And so that's our role. So it's really making use of that great network that we have to what might be an underserved community for financial services, and putting information out there that they can access. And then through that, they contact TD and a transaction occurs or not.
And we all know that the union representing the Canada Post workers has been recommending senior services be provided or other types of services, particularly at rural locations. Mm-hmm. Could you talk to me a little bit about how Canada Post has thought about what type of services it might be able to offer to enhance the service offering and also help Canada Post become more profitable especially in rural areas?
Yeah. So first of all, rural Canada is incredibly important to us. It's part of our mandate, and we want to offer the best service possible. And we're very proud of that network because it's a unique advantage to us. In terms of the services, the first priority is to ensure we can have a high quality service on our basic products. So that is why I keep talking about capacity investments, because the smallest of post offices can have capacity challenges as much as the biggest offices. So that's priority one. Priority two is some of the work that we're doing around our community hubs. So we have set out to say to communities, you tell us, you work with us along with the union to identify the services that you feel might be of use to your small business customers, to your community. And then we try to tailor that in those tests to see how it will work. So we're at the beginning stages of that program. And like I said, we're going to be doing 2 more locations to be determined. But that is how we will learn what works, what doesn't, and what services might help us better serve those communities.
Excellent. And I assume that when you're doing that, you're also consulting with the union and working with the union in terms of discussions about launching the pilot projects?
The unions locally, nationally, and regionally have been very heavily involved. They have been side by side with us on this.
Fantastique. Et comme un député qui vient d'une communauté.
And as an MP who comes from a minority community, I'm very attached to bilingualism at the national level, at the provincial level for Canada Post. Could you talk to us about the challenges faced by Canada Post in regards to bilingual services across Canada, and if there are any specific challenges right now? Well, first of all, we want to maintain our retail service network where bilingualism is essential. We do everything possible to ensure that service is available to clients. And if ever there are any issues, we want to resolve them. For us, it's part of the quality services we offer to all Canadians. It's part of our priorities.
Merci beaucoup. No worries. Thank you very much. Things are going along very well. So we are now going to go to the 4th round, and we will start with Mr. Lobb for 5 minutes.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to go back to a couple topics, and I do appreciate the amazing work that must have been required over the last couple years to keep things going. It would be definitely unprecedented. I think everybody on the committee appreciates that. One thing I did want to talk about, and obviously you're the interim chief operating officer, so you're involved in all the important discussions. One is I want to go back to the underfunded pension liability. And there's a 3-year average of the underfunded pension liability of I believe it's 7.1 billion. And in 2020, it was 6.3 billion. And for a number of years now, you've asked, I wouldn't say you specifically, but Canada Post has asked for a special payment holiday. Is there any concerns amongst the corporation where that number's heading, and just the fact that it is quite a significant number?
We're always worried about financial sustainability. Like I said, it's part of our dual mandate. Specific to pension, though, I don't have the specifics, but I'll be happy to have someone follow up with the committee.
Fair enough. One other comment you'd made was in around MoneyGram, the MoneyGram product. Do you have a estimation of how much that MoneyGram product cost to set up and deliver?
I don't. It's been installed in our network of post offices for quite some time, actually. And I haven't seen specific numbers recently, but again, we will certainly be happy to provide you with that information.
Do you know when you're looking at quarterly reports, monthly reports, annual reports, do they do a separate line item for the IT expenses that would go into supporting and maintaining, just say like this MoneyGram program?
I don't know on the annual report. I do know from the initial implementation, though, that the MoneyGram service was set up as a third-party service, totally self-sustainable. So,
do you know how much revenue does that generate in a year for Canada Post MoneyGram?
I don't have the specifics about that either, but I'll be happy to provide them.
Okay. No, fair enough. Fair enough. I know it is kind of a granular idea or granular topic, and certainly not. I guess I'm just wondering, there's the core business that you're involved in, and like the parcel business, I think I can't remember. Did you mention what the margins are on the parcel business?
No, we said we could provide you that separately.
Like amongst your discussions amongst the C-level staff and the executives there and the board of directors, is there a discussion that takes place often, ever, about the different business units that you have with under the umbrella of Canada Post, margins, performance? Do those discussions take place often?
Well, I think every executive team reviews their results and discusses their results on a regular basis.
Okay, and I'm not to be critical. I'm just surprised that that nobody knows on this call today what the margins are in some of these business lines, business units. I would think you'd be able to rhyme them off just off lickety split, but maybe not. Anyways, I guess the question I still am unsure of is, where do you see this going? Where do we see the delivery business in rural? I'm from rural Ontario, and where do we look at the performance that these individual Canada Post stations operate at?
Where do we see it going, or where do we see it?
Well, you've described some of the business climate that you're in today, and we've talked a little bit about rural delivery, but where's the strategy? Where is the strategy at Canada Post to continue to deliver mail to rural addresses in the light of a declining business market?
So our strategy is to build on what the pandemic has brought to us in terms of the changing needs of Canadians, and that is in the parcel business. And where we are going is we place incredible value in the rural network as well as the urban network. We're proud of it. It differentiates us from others. And we are investing heavily across the network, including the smallest office that delivers to the smallest community to the biggest plant in Toronto that drives most of the parcel volumes in Canada.
One last question, if there is any time.
Thank you, Mr. Lobb. Unfortunately,
Thanks.
5 minutes. We now will go to Mr. Baines for 5 minutes. And before we do that, just an FYI for Ms. Thompson, just in case your mic is still on, so just a heads up on that. So thank you. Mr. Baines.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And great discussion that we're having here. I'm going to ask, recent census data showed us that BC is the most desirable place to live in Canada, and we're having the discussion around rural and small communities. Some of our rural communities are actually becoming small communities now rather than remaining rural, and we've seen throughout COVID where people choosing to work remotely or leaving the urban centers and going into the smaller communities, Lake Country, Langford on the island, And, so there's growth in BC, significant growth. We just hit 5 million in terms of population. Now, so my question is, are you monitoring this? What adjustments are you making to meet those demands? Are you seeing those demands? And specifically in the smaller communities, what changes are being brought forward there?
We are absolutely seeing that change. And that is why I mentioned that volume growth in the pandemic between 2019 and 2021. The urban growth in packages was 13%. The rural growth was 48%. And we think part of that is people moving away from the urban center, possibly like you think of Toronto and then think of Barrie and the surrounding areas. Same in Vancouver, moving away from Vancouver into the surrounding areas. So it creates challenge for us from a network perspective. So you might have had a little truck going from the main office to that community before, and a small post office, with 2 employees in it serving that community. Now we have to have a bigger truck. So we changed that. And we have to expand. Like I talked about Saint-Lin-des-Laurentides earlier. That's such a I don't know if you know Saint-Lin-des-Laurentides. It's a location in northern Montreal, and it used to be people going to their cottages. Now it's people who live there. It's a beautiful area, and so we've had to expand.
And I know even in your previous answer, you rattled off a number of locations, primarily in the east. I'm concerned with BC. So what is happening in BC?
We have areas across the country. I could send you the information. I just listed a bunch, but the list is 3 pages long on where we're either building new, expanding, changing the network, adding trucks. It's quite long because there has been significant impact to that network for sure.
Right, and we have different geographical terrain in BC also. So those impacts, you're adapting to those as well?
Absolutely. And we've had to adapt. Like we've put in contingencies while we're able to find a new building or expand the building. We've put in contingencies in some of those locations. But there's plans in many, many communities. And of course, we go by our prioritization starts with the service and then the capacity of the community versus the growth. That's how we've been prioritizing those investments.
And then just on the feedback, are you getting feedback? I know that it was a question I had in my previous, one of my previous questions, and I don't think we got to the answer on that. Customer feedback, how often do you measure that?
I know that the retail network, maybe Serge is in a much better position to answer that question since he is business development and customer facing.
Yes, thank you. But the feedback basically on measuring, we are measuring multiple different areas. So basically consumer. So we use what we call the Net Promoter Score methodology to reach out to consumer, what we call mid-market and very small businesses across the country. So by having their feedback, from Canadian, but not only citizen, but businesses, we have implemented a plan to improve our service. So this is the way for us to get the feedback from consumer and also businesses.
Okay, thank you. And how much time do I have?
27 seconds.
Okay, and that maybe Ms. Fortin, if you can please forward the information as you indicated, and maybe I'll give a shout out to one of your colleagues in BC here, Mike Lee, who's done a great job of reaching out to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baines. We'll now go to Ms. Vignola for 2.5 minutes.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Ms. Fortin, there's an English expression that says, know your enemy. And I wonder, has Canada Post carried out comparative studies with various competitors, including cost per package by weight, distances covered, to see the differences at the level of the staff, are the salaries comparable? I had a long list. Salaries, benefits, the age of staff, staff turnover, a holistic study to enable you better understand your competitors and to be able to play the game on their territory. When it comes to our competitors, I will not be the judge. I'll leave it up to Mr. Pitt to answer. Thank you very much. Basically, yes, we carry out studies to look into our competitiveness on the Canadian market and to find out what our competitors are doing as well. You talked about this is SWOT analysis. We try to look at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. And we understand that most of our competitors in Canada don't only do e-commerce. They do business-to-business undertakings, and this changes the business model throughout Canada. Rest assured that we are focusing on what we're able to do to be able to better compete and to better serve Canadians, because that's our main role. We don't have the choice of saying yes or no to certain lines of business. We need to serve everyone. Very quick comment. A while ago, you said Canada Post employees in their agreements, in their collective agreements, did not receive CERP, whereas competitors, when their staff was sick, they received the CERP. Do you think that's an advantage, a financial advantage for Post Canada? I think it was an advantage because our priority was the safety of our employees, and we wanted to enable them take leave because they had either COVID or their kids couldn't go to school or they had to take care of seniors. I think it was the right thing for us to do, and I'm happy that we were able to give them that opportunity to get that benefit. Thank you very much.
For 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Fortin, and to all of the 68,000 employees at Canada Post. Greatly appreciate your work, especially given the circumstances of COVID-19. Now, back to postal banking, we know it works from experiences in other countries and economies similar to Canada's, like the UK, New Zealand, France, Italy, and even Switzerland, that postal banking is part of the community and it's profitable. Now, given the deficits that you're facing, the challenges coming out of COVID-19, it just seems to make sense that there's no better time for Canada Post to help, build profits and for now and for the future. Now, we know that corporate banks, as I cited earlier, have been abandoning, rural and urban Canada. Fewer than 10% of Indigenous communities actually have a bank or credit union. So I'm asking you. You talked about some of the success you're seeing in your pilots. That many people rely on private businesses right now to cash their checks in these rural areas, and in urban areas, payday lenders are preying on people, and access to people's own money. It's not just a privilege; it's a right, and no right that no Canadian should be denied. And your own unions are calling for it. Why is Canada Post not moving forward with postal banking? What's the barriers?
Yeah, so we understand our unions are supportive of the idea. And as I've said before, we are collaborating with our unions on many fronts, many fronts, including our community hubs, including the My Money Loan initiative. We may not agree on everything, though, but what we do agree on is providing a great service. So relative to the postal banking, as I've mentioned, we are expanding services.
Can you speak just about how this ties into reconciliation, given that I just shared with you 10% of Indigenous communities don't have a bank or credit union? I mean, this is a serious issue, and you have an opportunity to advance reconciliation in a real and meaningful way.
Yes. For now, what we are doing is we are testing. We are testing and trying to find partnerships for what might work, both in indigenous communities and rural communities. And we'll have to see where that goes from there. For the moment, though, we are not intending to launch a full banking services.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Mr. McCauley for 5 minutes.
Thanks again for your feedback. Again, from our earlier studies of postal banking, I know that almost every place where the NDP comments that it's a great idea, the Postal Service have been privatized. I don't know why the NDP keeps pushing for privatization of Canada Post. But let me ask you, you've been interim for 6 months. How is being interim affecting your ability to deal with some of these massive losses that Canada Post is facing?
So
do you have full control to do as what is needed to achieve the changes?
So my job as an operator is to provide the best service possible while keeping our employees safe, and to get through this pandemic, now wave 5, with the best service possible and safety for our employees.
If that's the case, who at Canada Post is responsible then for the financial oversight to achieve the mandate of fiscal sustainability, if your focus is solely on, and not to be argumentative, but focus solely on the great service?
Well, I think that would be our executive team.
Okay. What is there in the board's view then on these crippling, eye-watering losses that taxpayers will have to make up? I don't know. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I cannot speak for the board, sorry.
What's going on with the market share with, I understand market share for parcel delivery is dropping. Is that correct?
Maybe I'll have Mr. Pitt answer that question.
Sorry. If we're talking about pure market share, you are right, but we are still growing at net number. So basically, e-commerce in Canada is growing. Our business is growing.
But you're losing.
But obviously,
are you concerned about the loss in market share? Your Canada Post's costs are significantly higher than your competitors. Canada Post is losing market share. Is that not rather worrisome?
Well, basically, that's a big reason why we are investing into our network to increase our capacity to be able to service Canadian based on the needs and the growth of the e-commerce.
Has the investment in such services reversed the decline of the market share loss?
As we mentioned, we are currently investing to meet the demand, and obviously that demand was accelerated by the COVID situation and brought us volume that the whole market did not expect short term.
Right. Is Canada Post losing market share because of pricing or for capacity issues or for what reason?
Basically, the base where the market is growing so fast and the ability for everybody to insert that. I mean, there've been an issue with capacity in the marketplace. So, and that's why we did, as Manon mentioned, advance some of our investment plan to be able to have that capacity and service the marketplace in Canada.
When do you expect the market share erosion then to be reversed with these investments? Because your competitors are facing the same issues of COVID and everything else. They don't have the advantage of Canada's Post size and everything else.
Well, as Manon mentioned earlier, the new plant in Toronto will be online early next year, adding multi-million added capacity to our network. Yeah. This will help us.
The 2018 announcement of the new vision, and you may not be able to answer that, ensure high-quality service at a reasonable price. Who's deciding the metric for a high-quality service, and who's deciding the metric for a reasonable price? And then just, you may have to get back to us. One of the items that said, we're going to be, enhancing the remittance that we spoke about earlier. How much extra revenue has that enhanced remittance focus brought in for Canada Post? And the reason I bring that up is very little attention is brought to the massive losses Canada Post is incurring. the E&Y or the E&Y report and other issues said, it's 400 million a year potential savings lost by the abandoning of the community mailboxes. So in response to that, Canada Post says, well, we're going to enhance the remittances. So how much of that 400 million has been offset by enhanced focus on the remittance program?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't have that information with me now, so we'd be pleased to get
significant
back to
amount?
I don't have the information.
Would you be able to get back to us?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. McCauley. And now we'll go to Mr. Johari for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Fortin, I have a question on some of the greening initiatives that Canada Post is implementing to reduce the Canada Post carbon footprint. Can you specifically expand on a pilot project that I believe you guys are doing on e-cargo in Montreal?
Yes. So as I said before, we are constantly looking to innovate in how we improve service and how we go about meeting our other ambitions around social, environment, Indigenous, and certainly the e-trike pilot is an exciting innovation. It was tested in Montreal. It is meant to, so it's like a bike with a cargo behind it and with some power. And it's meant to replace, obviously, fossil fuel vehicles in the downtown core. And so the test was held this spring and summer in Montreal, which I live in Montreal. I consider it a pretty difficult city to operate in, whether you're in a car, a bike, or otherwise. And it was quite a success, actually. Our test was meant to, with employees and with the union and with the city, to understand, can we operate these vehicles in this environment? Is it safe for employees and for Canadians who live in Montreal for us to operate these vehicles? How does the using that vehicle change the cost of each of the items that we would deliver through them? And so we've gathered some of that data, and now we are going to be testing in a different city, a very different city. It will be in Ottawa, actually, to see do the results change when you're not in a big downtown core like Montreal, but it's certainly an option for us. We think our fleet of the future will be looking very different than the fleet that we have today. And e-trikes might be, and drones might be one of those solutions, which is why we keep trying different things.
Thank you for that. I think that's quite interesting. And we're looking forward to the result of it and the applicability in other urban areas. Next question is on how Canada Post, by allowing some of their facilities to be used as potential charging station to support our EV infrastructure. Can you expand on that one?
Are you asking if we're going to provide an infrastructure?
Are you considering something like that? Stationing some of the fast EV chargers, electric vehicle charging stations in?
For now, so eventually, probably. For now, our focus on EV stations is one, through the community hubs, because it's something that was asked by the community. Two, for our fleet. So when we do receive those electric vehicles in Montreal and Vancouver shortly, we will need to electrify, to have stations for them to be able to be charged. And then how continue, like we have 12,000 vehicles. So our focus is how do we make sure we can electrify and green that fleet and provide the infrastructure for it. That's not to say that down the road, with the network of post offices that we have, and depending on where electrification goes with every Canadian, that we're not going to be providing, because of the numerous locations we have across Canada, something for Canadians to charge. But our focus focus right now really is on our own use, if I could say it that way.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Johari, and thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you to the witnesses, Ms. Fortin and Ms. Petrie. And we are, and I specifically am looking forward to hearing more about you, learning more about rural Canada and the reality of what rural Canada really is.
Yeah.
Because it's not cottage country. So I appreciate you. And that, would you, if, as was indicated, and you've indicated throughout the meeting that you would provide answers to the committee, please do so and provide those answers to the clerk. Likewise to the members, if they did have any extra questions that they were thinking about that they wanted to put in writing and submit to the clerk, we would take those and also submit those as well. So with that said, I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank the interpreters, a much easier meeting than the last one, and the technicians, and the clerk and the analysts, thank you very much. And with that said, I call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend, everyone.